Hi, everyone. We are so happy to be with you. As I mentioned before the recording started, around this time of the year, we would typically be heading to Bella Center in Copenhagen, taking the metro or on wheels, and meet you physically in a relaxed atmosphere. So this time it is very different, but we are glad that we can still meet you all. My name is Ender, and I am a development manager working for SimCorp.
My name is Christian. I'm also working at SimCorp, and I'm working as a Scrum Master. As you can see today, we're going to do the presentation a little bit different. There will be no PowerPoint. So what we're going to do is that while we talk, I will try to the best of my ability to be sketchnoting at the same time. So now we cross our finger and hope everything will be fine.
So we are very excited to share our experience in recruiting and onboarding for Agile Teams. Let's start with the why. And let's start with you, Christian.
Yes. Ding! You got a new mail. You maybe tried this a few times in your career. Suddenly there pops up a new mail in your inbox. It says something about breakfast meeting for a new employee, and you're a little bit like, who, why, what's going on? Are we hiring somebody to our team? What's going on? You can say traditional recruitment and onboarding, as we know it, disregards the team knowledge. So the team might have a lot of knowledge about what they need of people, resources, all these things, but traditional recruiting and onboarding does not take this into consideration. They're looking at this, that there's the plan, the one-size-fit-all onboarding plan, and this is how we are going to onboard people. So today we will talk about how we have changed our approach to this in SimCorp. When we started our Agile journey in SimCorp for more than 4 years ago, we saw we had perfect team, high-performance teams. And suddenly you will have a manager who looks at this team and say, oh, you have a great velocity. Do you know what? Let me add another person to your team here because you're doing so great. So the velocity will probably even be better if I add a few more people. And you have to remember here that this was done with all the best intention. But what we saw here was that the only thing this led to was the velocity of the team did not increase. It started dropping. The happiness of the team did not increase. It started to fall. So we saw also examples of managers who, with all best intention, was about to hire new people which did not have the skill set at all needed for the team. So you will have been hiring the wrong person into the organization. We saw perfect hires where you find the candidate, and then we send them through a one-size-fit-all onboarding machine. I call it a machine here because it was simply the same plan no matter who you are. And what that meant was that the people getting out of this, they were not at all as motivated as going into this. The theory said that you should, or the textbook said that it's important to keep stable team. And it is super important to keep stable team. But we also need to realize that the world we live in today, people are changing from one job to another job to a third job much more frequent than we saw in the past. This means that recruitment and onboarding is starting to become areas where the modern Agile team needs to operate as well. So what SimCorp did was that we concluded that we simply need a new approach to how we deal with these challenges. So we started to rethink our concept about how we onboard and how we recruit. So over to you, Ender.
So before diving into the topic, let me shortly describe the setup we have in SimCorp. In our organization, we work with Scrum teams that include a Scrum Master, a Product Owner, and a development team as defined in the Scrum Guide. Perhaps you know we expect to hear a revision in the Scrum Guide soon by Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber. which will, according to the rumors, reduce the Scrum guide about 6 pages. But let's now assume the Scrum as defined by the current Scrum guide. So back to our setup, all members of the Scrum team have the same manager. The manager is not a traditional manager and does not define the work, does not assign the work, nor tell people what to do. For our managers, having healthy and happy teams is the priority, and it cannot be jeopardized by the delivery deadlines or short-term priorities. The manager is an enabler and a gardener for the team, and activities such as recruiting and onboarding are part of the areas where the manager can help the team. Now, you may well have different setups, and the mandate of recruitment and onboarding could be placed differently. For now, let's continue with our story using the setup I just described. Now, let us present our approach ordered as before, during, and after recruitment. Before recruitment, we maintain continuous dialogue on the needs and the preferences. So how do we do that? Agile teams and their managers have an ongoing dialogue on teams' well-being and capabilities, as opposed to old habits of prioritizing highest paid person's opinion, also known as HIPPOs, for example, a super senior developer or a very experienced product owner or the manager herself. We create a safe environment and make sure to listen all the voices. One of the practices I use is what I call team one-on-ones, which resemble individual one-on-ones, so the focus is on the team's collective needs and growth. This provides a healthy continuous dialogue and alignment. Learnings and outcomes of team one-on-ones are the points that are not covered in Agile ceremonies, for example, retrospectives, yet still relevant to improving the team. For example, needs for certain skills, possible improvements in the team composition, or even finding a better fit for the team in the big organization. The outcome of the team one-on-ones are valuable insights for recruitments and training investments. Obviously, I also interface upper management and maintain similar communication with stakeholders in terms of defining the needs based on product roadmap and company strategy. Thus, the traditional reflex of quickly replacing a leaving team member or ramping up when suddenly client request surge is replaced by an ongoing dialogue with all stakeholders, including upper management and the Agile teams. Sorry. Another practice I use before recruitment is what I call team preferences. After we identify the needs and get a green light to recruit, the next step is profiling the right candidate. Assuming that the candidate will be part of a certain team, I perform a workshop with that Agile team, which I call Team Preferences Workshop. The goal is to identify the details in terms of the needed profile and tailor recruitment process based on the team's preferences. As Christian is also depicting an example, a practical approach we use is to collect all the sought-after qualities and then talk about them and prioritize. As every team is different, not only in terms of needs, but also preferences, every time I run such a workshop, I get valuable insights that I use in the recruitment process, especially in screening the applications and interviewing the candidates. An often overlooked part of recruitment is the preparation of the job announcement. Reusing old job announcements and not paying attention to drafting a good text are examples of pitfalls. In our practice, the manager prepares the job ad and then asks for feedback from the team and stakeholders, or even better, tries to do mob writing with the team such that the job ad is created together. Beware of the fact that your good intention to accommodate different views can result in really long and detailed job ads, which is simply not ideal. According to LinkedIn Gender Insights Report 2019, women feel they need to meet 100% of the criteria, while men usually apply after meeting about 60%. It's not only about gender diversity, but it's also about the understanding of the fact that people can be trained for skills. Today's skills and past achievements matter less than the potential to unlearn and learn new skills and adapt to new situations. Do you know how I get the best feedback about the job ad? I get the best feedback by asking the applicants at the end of an interview round. In my experience, the feedback from especially the team members and the applicants make a huge difference in reaching the right profiles and finding a better fit. We encourage all the team members to co-own the recruitment in the sense that they also activate their network and actively look for their next colleagues. Leaving recruitment to only managers and HR's efforts and simply relying on job ads prolong the process and risk not reaching strong candidates and missing a good fit with the team. And now we can look at what happens during recruitment. Now we have the needs from team one-on-ones and dialogue with all stakeholders. We have defined the team preferences. We have converged into a good job ad, and all team members utilize their network to find their new colleague. We are collecting applications and also proactively approaching possible candidates. Using the organization's needs and preferences, managers screen the applications and identify the candidates to be invited to the interviews. At this stage, we have to be aware of the fact that human brain has some limitations, known as cognitive bias. I'm sorry. Yes, hydration is important. Sorry about the interruption. So we were talking about cognitive bias. For example, I might be tempted to prioritize a candidate that have graduated from the same school like I did, or my memory can betray me, making me recall a mediocre interview as a good one. Also, I might not have covered all the topics I needed to verify, which would lead to a misjudgment. Recruitment canvas, as Christian is showing an example here, and this is an approach I learned at Agile 2019 conference from Pavel Dabritsky. This is a simple approach that is applying learnings from Daniel Kahneman's famous book, Thinking Fast and Slow. Using a recruitment canvas where all the candidates will be evaluated based on the same criteria and given a numeric score on each criterion helps avoiding intuitions and biases. I'm sorry. In here, I need to open a parenthesis that your scores can still be subjective, but that's not the point. It's important to have a score for each case. Our experience shows that our memory and bias can easily trick us, and having a recruitment canvas did surface such situations. For example, when there are multiple interviewers or multiple interview rounds, we compare our findings with other interviewers, which would often trigger healthy discussions and uncover some points. Okay, so the manager takes the first round of interviews where the results of the tools, such as team preferences and recruitment canvas, will be utilized along the way. After the first round, the most promising candidates are invited to the second round, which is run by the team. We call it the team interview. Obviously, this is a significant change. If the only experience your team members have is from their own interview when they joined the company, we have found out that having a preparation workshop where the interviewer group would go through their interview strategy is beneficial. For the teams which never tried to do interviews, the managers would facilitate and coach this workshop. When running the interviews, we have tried different strategies. For example, time sharing. So every interviewer has a fixed period of time to ask questions. Another strategy is topic sharing, where every interviewer covers a different area. Picking from a list of question areas that's agreed upfront is another strategy. And for developer interviews or more technical interviews, we try pair programming and pair testing with the candidate. You can even try mock programming with the candidate, which would require everybody in the room to contribute to the effort. Regardless of the strategy, we clearly communicate the candidate, the format, and most importantly, encourage a two-way dialogue where the candidate also asks all questions about the way the team works. Our experience shows that absence of a recruiting manager and giving full ownership to the team results in better decisions and a more satisfying candidate experience. The manager does not continue with a candidate that is not found eligible by the Agile team. This approach ensured a higher degree of trust between managers and teams. Typically, there is a third round for the top candidates where more stakeholders are involved. And they may consider the fit with company values and focus on alignment with the rest of the organization. Finally, the manager will ask the team to express preference on the candidates that passed all interviews. Often teams will easily converge on which candidate to choose. The manager takes over after that and makes the job offer. Inspired by lean and flow concepts and forced by the competitive job market and the scarcity of talent, we use recruitment metrics. We define lead time as the time passed between recruitment started and ended, measured in days. Similarly, we define cycle time per measured activity. For example, the time between a candidate is contacted and answered with a rejection or a job offer. We also used first-year attrition as a metric to indicate the success of the recruitment and number of applications to indicate the success of job ad preparation and the channels or networks used. A manager might have personal objectives and key results related to recruitment, and this will significantly help in improving the results that would affect the whole organization's performance. Examples of measurable key results that I actually use myself are I recruit within 30 days of job announcement, or my retention rate is lower than 7%. One concrete lesson we learned from our previous mistakes is that we cannot measure recruitment success alone. We should also look at the retention. If you are able to recruit a lot of people in very short time, but so many of those people leave within the first year, you cannot assume that you are the champ in recruitment. That is why having both types of metrics would give a more accurate picture.
Now we're moving on to what happens after recruitment. So we have looked at what happened before, during, and now we are at the point after recruitment. So we are at the point where you have found the perfect candidate, and you have actually been so fortunate that you have been able to hire them. We have seen that the onboarding is a very essential part of starting a new job, because when you start a new job, you feel full of emotion. You are both a little bit afraid, excited, and so on. When we started our Agile journey in SimCorp, our onboarding plans were very much one size fit all. That means you pulled out the same onboarding plan no matter who you have hired. What a group of development managers found out was that this could be optimized completely. So they decided we need a total new concept for onboarding. So they came up with a deck of cards. And this is an actual deck of cards from SimCorp, which I'm showing here. So what they did was they took all the onboarding activities and collected into this deck of cards. So now you could suddenly start to personalize it. So there would be each card represent an activity. It could be a first day at SimCorp. It could be soft skills like time management. It can be hard skills like BDD spec flow testing, how we look at performance review, how we do agile onboarding, and so on and so forth. So this entire card deck here is containing all the onboarding activities needed. But the most important cards is these ones, the blank ones. That is the ones you will fill out as a team creating this new onboarding plan. Because with the onboarding card deck, they come a whole new concept. You start to say that now the Agile team is the one that knows. The team is the one that knows the best. Therefore, it's also the team who should create the onboarding plan. Since each newcomer is a unique person, having unique qualification, having a unique background, you cannot use a standardized plan. So you create a tailor-fit onboarding plan per newcomer. This onboarding plan is created as a cooperation between the newcomer, the manager, the team, and the Scrum Master. So this is a shared responsibility for creating the best onboarding plan you can to give this newcomer the best starting possible in your company here in SimCorp. And one important thing is also to say the newcomer is the one that owns the plan, meaning he or she will be also driving this. So it's not like you just, as a newcomer, lay back and get spoon-fed, but you create a plan and you're the one who drives it. You're the one who pushes the team to help you. The team is responsible for giving you all the support, the coaching you need in order to succeed. We fast discovered that different roles have different needs. So you can say the onboarding card we show here, that is really good for roles as developer, as testers, but we also found that it's less, let's call it useful for other type of roles. Therefore, a group of Scrum Masters in SimCorp actually went together, and instead of creating an onboarding card deck, they created a tree. So now I just show a printout of it. So each node in the tree, each leaves here, are representing different activities you need to go through in order to succeed as a new Scrum Master in SimCorp. And it could be, for example, on the person skill you need to learn. We are using Sage, so you need to learn the release train you're working in. You need to learn your colleagues. You need to learn the tools. So this way in SimCorp, we're starting not just to having one set of cards, but we actually try to differ them depending on the role we're hiring from. Again, the most important thing here is that you have blank cards. So you look at the unique qualification of your newcomer, because some people might be expert in something. So there's no reason to drag them through an extensive onboarding program in this area. All these discussions also led to another discussion. Who is a newcomer? Is a newcomer only defined as a person joining from the outside? Or is it also defined as a person changing job within our organization? Our conclusion was a newcomer is defined as anybody joining the team. You will have completely different onboarding plan depending on if it's somebody joining from inside the organization who has been here many years, knows the company, knows the culture, but perhaps does not know what the team is working on. So there the onboarding plan might be much more technical. Let's go through the code. Let's show us the interfaces we have in this part of the code and we're working on. While for a newcomer coming from the outside, you also need to provide them an insight into how it is to work in this company cultural-wise. So our conclusion is anybody joining a team, that's a newcomer. Over to you again.
Thank you, Christian. You can be a Scrum Master or a manager or a concerned team member that's dealing with your team's dysfunctions. Have you ever wondered that instead of all the efforts in improving the teamwork, resolving conflicts, and handling misfits, you could have made much better choices in recruitment and performed a much better onboarding. And you could have made better use of the collective knowledge and insights that already exist in your team. You could have invested a little bit of your team's time, which could save your current efforts. We are often asked whether the way recruiting and onboarding we explain here is a good use of an Agile Teams time. In our experience, spanning last 3-4 years, even though teams feel they invested precious work time into the hiring process, they at the same time expressed that it was a good investment with decent returns. Newcomers are in general very happy with the onboarding plans that they co-created and they executed simply the onboarding that they owned.
Another question we are often asked is this approach we're using now, is it for everyone? Frankly speaking, no. You need to have a team who is willing to do this. You need to have a team who's in for it. We have seen individuals and teams where they simply didn't feel comfortable about doing this. They didn't feel comfortable about being the ones who are sitting in a recruiting situation. We have also heard and felt maybe that you need the right set of managers because managers are giving away a part of their power. So one of the mantras we have had from the beginning is this approach we're presenting here is not something you can force upon teams. You need to have a team which is mature or which is willing to do this, which can find it interesting to step out of their comfort zone and be part of this. If you get that, you will harvest a lot of benefit. But this one should never be pushed because then you might end up in a worse situation than what you set out to do.
Thank you very much for listening and thank you for having us. Now we are really looking forward to hearing your comments and questions.